Well, welcome to the BeyondTheBaselines.com podcast. I'm Ed Shanfi, your host, and today I have the two guys behind Pickletile, Matt Reinberg and Brooks Wiley. Welcome to the podcast. How you guys doing?
Good, good. Appreciate
Good,
you having us.
good.
Oh, no problem. So we met at the PGA conference. I saw these big glass um, dividers. I was like, "What is that? It looks like an old school, like I can't cheat through it kind of thing." And I went up to the pickle tile stand and introduced myself. And you guys said, "Hey, it's Ed Shanify from the podcast." I didn't know I had listeners, so thanks for being on. Guys, and I don't know who to ask first, but I wanted to find out how you guys are positioning yourself in the pickleball industry because you guys are the leaders, I think, right now. And I wanted to see how you're positioning yourself through marketing and through word of mouth and going out to those conferences. What's your next year's marketing plan position look like?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty loaded question there.
Yeah, of course, start off
You
tight.
know, we've really tried as a whole to just elevate kind of like the racket sports construction market in general. So right now Pickletile is a national preferred court builder for USA Pickleball, and the pickle glass fencing, which is like our signature proprietary product that we make, is also endorsed as the like exclusive acoustic solution for USA Pickleball too. So we've got kind of like the designation from the governing body of the sport nationwide. The company itself provides, full turnkey construction assistance, and we carry those out. So that can be anywhere from, permit planning and drawing to design and consultation, to your full court build and, repair and resurface situations. But I think where we've made our biggest mark in the industry so far is in the sound and wind mitigation market. So pickle glass fencing, I mean, you saw it at the conference. I think aesthetically, it's on a completely different planet from anything we've ever wrapped sports courts in before. We joke that sports fencing hasn't changed in 100 years. Chain link fence and windscreen is just kind of what you've always put around a court. And if you ask somebody why, nobody can ever give you a really good answer other than that's just what you do. So we've come up with a product that we feel like basically executes everything you'd want from a real fence on a completely different level. It looks great. It's significantly longer lasting and more durable. And then, from a sound and wind mitigation standpoint, like it actually does block the wind. So it does what windscreens were built to do. You don't have to worry about a burst storm coming through and wrecking your
Mhm.
fence or ripping them all out. And there is a significant, you saw it at the show, there is a significant sound dampening effect,
Oh,
which, for pickleball, it's kind of like that's like the big blemish with the sport nationwide right now is, it's really limiting new building and outdoor play in more residential areas and things like that. So we've come up with a solution where we feel like it kind of hits all of those levels. Um, and it's
you
really, from
know,
a sound dampening standpoint, it's the only one also that still lets you see in and out of the court, which, these are social games. Nobody wants to play in like a
a
completely
box.
closed off hot box. Yeah.
We run a club out in it's actually an HOA, which makes it really interesting because you're dealing with the homeowners, right? Out in Arrowhead near Vail in Colorado. And
Yep.
we just built 8 courts. They were four and they started out as two tennis courts. Now they're four pickle. Then we expanded it last year under a project up to 8 courts. And of course, some of the neighbors are, when there's 32 people playing, I've sat next watching my daughter play a tennis tournament, sat next to a bank of four pickleball courts. And it's not just the noise of the ball and battle, it's the whooping and the hollering and the social. And so when we put Padel in here, where I am right now at the Boulevard, here in Vero, I noticed that if I'm talking to the instructor behind glass, he can't hear me. Like we talk through the glass, you can't hear it. And we put Padel in, and there are condos literally looking over the Padel, no issues, right? But if we had put Pickle in there, it would have been a huge issue, right? So I understand where you're coming from, especially in these residential communities where the homeowners they're the guys with the funds to pay for the pickleball and they don't want it, right? Because of the noise.
Yeah.
So
And
What do
Ed,
you think? Yeah, go ahead.
can I
Go ahead, Brooks.
expand on Matt's answer?
Yeah,
We so far as far as how we're positioning Pickle Tile,
yeah.
so far this year we've been to the ASBA conference, which is American Sports Builders Association conference, kind of the leading group for, standards in pickleball, paddle, tennis, all, in all sports construction in general. It was amazing for all the contractors, similar to your experience, to be able to see it, feel it, like hear what you can't hear on the other side. And then, as of course you saw us at the PGA show, and the PGA show, which a lot of people may be surprised, has a pretty large and growing year over year rackets
Yes.
piece of it. And then we will also be at Racket X down in Fort Lauderdale on March 15th through the 18th. We have actually a full pickleball court that will be wrapped in our 8 foot tall pickle glass, and we're doing that in partnership with Podplay, who's the court reservation software.
Hmm.
So people, that's another sort of future looking initiative that we're working on, which is autonomous outdoor pickleball courts, where the software allows you door access via your phone or a code. It turns on the lights, opens the doors. It's remote monitored so that, club owners, whether it's your local HOA or your country club or, just a pickleball club owner can, um, you know, manage this without a full-time employee.
I it's a huge issue for us out in Arrowhead because
Mhm.
it's a gated community, and yet everyone has access because there's government land that they can hike. And so people say they're hiking and then they go use the pickleball courts, right? And so we have to pay, well, the HOA pays us, my firm, to put a court attendant out there to collect guest fees and to make sure that the guests are actually related somehow to an Arrowhead resident, right?
Right,
If it's an auto lock, which we're looking at this year, um, it saves them a fortune because they won't have to pay for a court attendant.
right.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question on I know you guys are building courts all up and down and across the country. You're based in, I think you said Tulsa,
Um,
right?
Company's based in Austin. Matt is in
Austin,
Tulsa.
sorry.
Mhm.
Matt's in Tulsa. You're based in Austin, Texas. What's your biggest growing market right now?
Florida, South Florida, and Texas, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I think South Florida is going to be, probably in the next year, probably like the biggest growth market for us. I think one of the biggest selling points of our product is, it's hurricane rated. We've been spec'd out in projects in South Florida where there's, 195 mile an hour plus wind resistance needing to be met. Um,
Hmm.
so a lot of these places that have, historically had, windscreens that they take down seasonally and rehang, and especially now that they're looking at sound tarps, which are, even more of a process to take down and rehang back up. You can't leave them up year round. I think they're seeing us as a real opportunity to have year round, sound and wind blocking without like that seasonal maintenance.
When you say the wind tarps, are they kind of like the firm boards, or is that like an actual tarp? Because at Beaver Creek out in Colorado, they have like firm boards that are up, and you're playing in like a jail cell.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a
I mean
black. I mean, yeah. Go ahead,
yeah,
Matt.
it's more of a mass loaded vinyl tarp. It's
Okay.
thick. Yeah, it kind of does look like you've been boarded up, right? It
Yeah.
restricts all vision in and out of the court. It does block the wind to an extent, but just like you said, you feel like you're playing in a completely closed off box. And
Yeah. No one can see your great shots. It's kind of
right, right,
kind
man.
of
People
it's
people
kind of
want to people want to see
alienating.
it. People want to see it. People want to cheer. And if you hit a bad shot, the people in the gallery want to be able to talk their trash. And like, I just think that kind
Exactly.
of setup restricts it. And especially in these areas, like, our product is very competitively priced to putting up like a more fortified chain link fence and these tarps anyway. And it's
Hmm.
like you're going to pay all this money for a solution that A doesn't do anything aesthetically. Like your courts look like an active construction zone all the time. And then B, you're going to have to take it down for a period of time. So if you get good weather during the season where you've got the tarps down, right? You're right back to no solution during that period of time anyway. And I just like that to me makes like would be the biggest deterrent for putting in an alternative solution to ours right now.
I get down to South Florida a lot. I'm in Vero at the moment, so I get down there a lot. and they just opened the Fort down there, which is a huge
Yeah.
pickleball club. And then I was at Patch Reef Park in, I guess it's in Boca, and I mean, it's like a massive cow shed. It's like what I used to see on farms in upstate New York, and all these pickleball courts. So it is really growing down there. What is in Texas is your other big market? Is there any build up north in New England, anything like that where I'm from?
Well,
Anything up there?
Matt, wasn't also kind of a strange pocket where we grew really early was Illinois.
Oh,
And
okay. That's
that,
outside of Chicago, I guess, or
yeah.
Yeah,
suburbs.
even like we've got like we had our like one of our first installs of all places was in Springfield, Illinois. Like, and I grew up in Central Illinois, and like that was always kind of like interesting to me. Like I wouldn't have thought that would have been like the early hotbed for pickle glass installations, but yeah, I think we've got 5 or 6 projects right now, kind of just in the Chicago area alone. Yeah, we have done a few projects up in the Northeast. We did a project for the city of Brooklawn, New Jersey.
Hmm.
Um, we've got a really cool indoor facility in Connecticut. Tom Heining's place at Smash Paddle and Pickle
Hmm.
has got our 4 foot infinity glass on display. We've got a couple other projects throughout like the Connecticut. Like we got a project in Fairfield, Connecticut. We're getting ready to install one out in Long Island near the Hamptons. That's another area that I think we're going to see really strong growth, especially as we get a couple of these installations and people see it up there. I taught tennis in the Hamptons for nearly a decade, so I've been in talks with a couple of like the kind of city inspectors and building officials out
Planners.
there of getting it added to the kind of like the fencing requirements and spec if you're going to add a court out there. So it there's a couple, like, to answer your question, there's a couple of projects that we have installed up that way, but yeah, I think there's
Coming.
going to be a lot more. I mean, nobody wants, like I said, nobody wants to block off these courts, and there's major sound issues in Long Island and Nantucket and Connecticut, and a lot of these kind of like more affluent areas of the country. Like they need a sophisticated, nice looking solution, and also one that really does perform.
That's why I told my folks at Arrowhead to look into it. Let me ask you about the actual court. I mean, obviously there's been discussion, and you've seen it as well in the national press about older people on concrete. Has there been any discussion about softening in some way or making this? I mean, I know the ball has to bounce, but is there any discussion as a supplier, as a producer, as a manufacturer on that side of the sport?
Yeah, there are all of pretty much all of the surfacing companies, Acrotech, Lakehold, Sportmaster, all of those, they all have a cushion option. And a lot of people like there's a very large one here in Austin, Pickle Ranch. I think it has like 16 or 18 indoor courts, and they elected to do that. Um, my personal bias, because I'm a little bit of a more of a purist, like I like the harder surface and the bounce, the higher bounce that comes with a
Right.
just standard concrete. It does feel better on your joints. If I don't know that there's any long-term data on, how much or how many injuries it prevents or anything like that, but it's definitely something that a lot of clubs choose to upgrade to as a like a premium option. And it's significantly more expensive for that particular
For the
line
padding.
item. Yeah.
And as a follow-up to that, is there anything that you've noticed on the market that's really getting prevalent? I know the owl paddle is it's not the only one. I actually, because of what's going on out at Arrowhead, the reason I was in your area of the
Mhm.
PGA, I go there to buy clothes. I don't even look at the golf clubs, right? I just think the fashion side of it's getting bigger and bigger. You see how, I mean, the stage has gotten so small because fashion keeps moving out towards past Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything that you've seen that's really helped? I mean, people are talking about this new quiet ball. I don't know if that's going to bounce as well. Have you seen anything in the marketplace that might help with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've hit with the owl paddle. Jack Monroe, who's a like the leading pro in the APP tour, who's a friend here and lives here in Austin. I think he just got signed by Owl, so I think he's actually using that paddle
Hmm.
on the professional tour, which is a pretty large signal, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, I think I hit with the ball one time It's a little strange in my opinion, but whether it, if it's between not playing and playing in your local community, then maybe those
Right.
are the choices that people are.
Well,
It's still
we don't have
fun,
a
right? Yeah,
Arrowhead,
yeah,
and I have another club up in Falmouth, and the
yeah,
two houses are literally right next to the two courts.
yeah,
And so I'm looking at the quiet ball has a different hole puncture structure, which really kind
yeah,
of threw me off. I
yeah.
was like, God, that's kind of odd. But I will tell you, the biggest asset I think you guys have with the pickle tile glass is that the wiffle ball doesn't move because there's no wind. It's
Right.
fantastic. Now, are you certified? You said hurricane. Is it up to 130 miles per hour? I know that
No.
going through the Pidell, we had to talk to the county about zoning and all that. What are you guys certified up to?
It's over 200, right, Matt? In the high, it's certified to go in the, I forget what the name is, Matt, in the South Florida high HNZ, or what is it called?
Probably category five. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's like I said, we like Brooke said, we've been engineered to meet any building code in the country. We've basically kind of got like three models. Our base model kind of starts off and goes up to about 125 miles an hour. We've got like a high wind model, which for just about everywhere outside of South Florida goes up to 155 mile an hour. That's more like rooftops and
Hmm.
kind of anywhere else. And then if we do need to dial it up to the 195 mile an hour plus, then we have kind of like the hurricane model too.
Are you building anything offshore, like the Bahamas, anything out there yet? Because I think that could be a big thing with your glass because they have more hurricanes. I joke. I always say hurricanes hit New York, the Hamptons. The Carolinas, and we're prepared for it here in Florida. But up there, they get just as many hurricanes. They're not prepared. But like down in the Caribbean, have you gotten any orders yet?
We've had some looks. We do have two projects. We sold one on Gum Cay Island, and we've got another one kind of like in the British Virgin Islands that we've sold that are in the process of getting delivered for install.
Hmm.
That's definitely a market. I mean, pickleball is going, worldwide at such a quick rate right now, but the early focus of the company has been to really like nail it here in the US first and
I
then
get
kind
it.
of kind of branch out. But yeah, I mean, we are I'd say that Brooks has seen it too. I'd say we've seen a really really strong uptick in kind of like international interest in the product right now.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a couple people in Europe, and we had a Dubai one recently it's starting to accelerate.
I'll join the install team for the BVIs. I love it down there.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, if they
Yeah.
need to send us three down there, for
Yeah.
3 weeks to put
I'll
in a
live, yeah.
put in a
I'll just
toilet.
more a sailboat out there and I'll dinghy it every day. That's my kind of place.
That's the way to do it.
Have you noticed, and this is an industry wide, the Racket X folks always say more racket sports float all boats, right? Rising tide. Have you noticed that pickleball is struggling in any way? Has it slowed down a little because of the pedal ramp upwards? Have you noticed anything like that? What's your thoughts on that state of the industry?
I'll let Brooks lead
Um,
that one off. But I
yeah.
like the float all boats situation. Is that how you came up with that background for today's call right there? You were just
Well,
you were ready
yeah,
for that
no,
one.
I'm a sailor. I love navigation and boats and boating and sailing. But
I,
thanks for the background. Yeah, go ahead, Brooks.
I mean, it's seen, I think the CAGR over the last couple of years has been north of 25%, which is just absurd. I don't think we're going to continue to see that. I think maybe the last year it dropped to 18%, but so is growth possibly slowing? Yes, would be my guess. But will it continue to grow at a like pretty decent clip, even in the 5+, 7+ range? I think absolutely. The accessibility of pickleball is just, you just can't beat that, from the ability for a kid, your grandmother, to like get on the court, and people with generally, no athletic ability, or haven't had experience, can get on the court and have fun and be playing it instantly. And then there's also the level of, it's like easy to learn, hard to master. And it, like, as you get hard, as you go get more experience and get higher level, the steps that you need to take to get to the next level are so hard that it makes it really, really challenging and fun. Um, Me personally, I've been playing more paddle recently, and I like doing that, and a lot of my friends here in Austin are doing that, but I still don't see any blockers to the growth, and we haven't that doesn't even touch on globally. Like you add Vietnam and China into the picture,
Mhm.
who are, I think maybe several years behind in their growth curve. I don't see it slowing.
I, the Padel side, which is interesting to me because I run this club here, which we have the only three courts between Orlando and Palm Beach, which is about a 250 mile, trip on each way, 75, 85 miles each way. Um, you know, I, I'm seeing Padel as, and I don't know if it's going to be able to keep the prices high. If you go to New York to play, it's $250 an hour for the four of you, right? So I don't see that pickleball. I don't know how fast Padel is going to replace or move up within the rackets. I think it's going to move up slowly because of that price point. Tennis is a little more accessible. Pickleball is even more accessible in terms of cost, rackets, paddles. And I know you say paddle, I say padel. Where I grew up, not in Texas, paddle is
Yeah.
platform,
Yeah.
which
Agreed.
is
Agreed. My
yeah,
guy.
which is still
Yeah, there
very
we go.
popular. Yeah, New England paddle is out in the cold with some chili afterwards, and a beer with the NFL game on. That's what I see it. Padel is hot and on the glass.
Yeah.
But that's where I think the biggest difference is, and where you guys at Pickletile can really grow is just is if that sport pickleball stays that accessible, I just don't see it slowing down too much.
Yeah.
Um,
Even with the existing demand or people slash demand, like there's not enough courts, even with the existing trajectory. So even if you add single digit 5% growth year over year, also people don't understand the people vastly underestimate and don't understand exponential growth. If you
right,
had 5%, I think it's like, what is it, 7% it doubles every 5 years, something like that.
right. And you
It's
think you
like,
think how many
yeah,
courts are
like,
in the country, and
yeah,
you double that in 5 years. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So if it goes from 30 million to 60 million in 5 years at a 5% growth, like, um, this is no slowing down. And again, the courts, the infrastructure, uh, just still don't exist.
Let me ask you a question about your business. Your demographic of your customer, is it mainly private clubs? Is it HOAs? Is it public facilities? What are your pieces of the pie? When I look at that circle graph and I bump your clients against into the circle graph, what's your demographic client like?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because if you would have asked me when I came on, obviously like high-end country clubs, private clubs, like more kind of like we mentioned earlier, affluent HOA type situations were kind of like where we really saw this being like the strong suit and really what we've obviously like those are still targets and like great pools of resource for our product, but what we've really seen kind of more surprising has been like the amount of public works jobs, not just HOA but like Parks and Rec, city government municipality type work that we've done, and I think that there's definitely a push within the industry, within the sport, just across the board right now, like to either A, get ahead of these sound complaints so that you don't have to deal with the lawsuits and the legal issues that pop up when you build it, or B, just kind of like reduce the long-term maintenance and hands on deck that you have to have, kind of patrolling a court in certain areas. So I like it's hard to really nail down like that one specific target market because I think what we've really realized in the first or the last couple of years is like there's a need across the board for it right now, and it is a little bit more of an investment up front versus like chain link fence, but like I said, if you've got the sound issue, we're very competitively priced with anything else that's out there.
There's a gentleman up in New England that wants to build lots of pickleball courts in marinas. Where marinas, the boats come in, they stay overnight, or they stay for a week, they stay
Yeah.
for a month.
Mm.
And I think you're glass because the marinas, wherever I teach, and you know this from the Hamptons, wherever you teach near the water, it's windy. I mean, really windy. And So the glass is going to really help. So your clients are every. I mean, I just see Parks and Recs just going through the roof in the next few years as
Yeah.
this as. And what do you think about the Pro Tour? Do you think the Pro Tour is going to grow? I saw publicity last year where they cut some of the tournament funding, where they cut some of the prize money, blah blah blah. How's the Pro Tour doing? And I saw a little mischievous grin there. What do you think is going to happen to the Pro Tour?
Um, I don't know the answer to that. I think it seems like the from the stats and press releases that they've put out that ticket sales are continuing to grow. Obviously, the amateur participation in this is something that maybe a lot of tennis people aren't familiar with, is that every time there's a professional pickleball tournament, there's an amateur tournament at the same time. That doesn't exist in tennis, right? Um, and so the amateur participation, I think, and the price points of those have continued to go up. So that's keeping the businesses healthy or, keeping a good solid revenue stream. Um, I think the challenge over the future is can they get a TV deal? And that remains to be seen. I don't know if you know this, but my former role, I was the co-founder of Major League Pickleball, the professional team, and I was the commissioner for a couple of years. I left that organization in 2023. Um, so have been out of it for quite a while. Still follow it kind of on the sidelines. I have several friends that are still professional pickleball players. So yeah, whether don't have a crystal ball, but I think the big challenge is do they get a TV deal and or a streaming or something like that?
I did know that. That's why I saw that little mischievous
Okay,
grin.
okay, yeah.
So, you know, I think, and this is just my opinion, right? Is that I run this tournament here, and I'm taking it on the road. It's called Vero's Heroes, and it's a UTR tournament for tennis. And I've gotten a couple sponsors, and I saw this at Battle of Boca. I don't know if you've heard about Battle of Boca, but it's a $10,000 prize fund, and I did that here in Vero, and we're doing it 4 times this year. Battle of Boca is every weekend. And what we're noticing is that a lot of the satellite challenger players, they can win maybe $100, but if they go play a UTR, they can win 2,000.
Mhm.
It's really upending the smaller challenge tournaments. So, for example, here in Vero, we've got the Marty Fish coming up, but their qualifying tournament is the same weekend as my Vero's Heroes, and I actually think more people are going to play Vero's Heroes than play the qualifier because qualifier you don't get any money, and if you don't win it, you're not going to the main draw. So you might as well play UTR that you can win some money. And I've noticed that now that there's a UTR professional tour. And what I'm going to do is take my UTR tournaments and take them to other clubs and say, hey, we'll come to your club, coming to a club near you, and maybe combine it with pickleball. That's what we've been discussing as kind of a board with my company is to try to figure out if we can find a site where you can do a big, you know, pickleball tournament, tennis tournament, raise money for the vets. That's the whole deal. That's the whole behind it. Heroes,
Mhm.
heroes. Last question for you, both of you guys, and you can answer it separately. Where do you think you, as a person, you Brooks and you Matt, will want the company to go, and do you see yourself staying with the company for 5, 10 years? I'll go to Matt first.
Yeah, that's a that's a loaded question there. So I don't have any plans on leaving the company.
Okay,
That's for
I
sure.
you
I
know me,
think
I always have loaded questions.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so if my CEO and president are listening, no, I'm not going anywhere. I like look, I came over like I come from the tennis world, like I coached professionally all over the place. I was out in the Hamptons, was down head pro for Arnold Palmer for a while. And then I worked for Hartrue, right? And during my time there, I got to work with a lot of the contractors that were out there, on the construction side of things. I got to see how they were doing it. I got to see kind of like where the industry as a whole was, and coming from that side personally to the construction side, um, yeah, I'm just not super impressed, with how much it's kind of like just general contracting, if you're flipping houses or something like that, right? Like there's some really good ones out there, but there's a lot of them out there that, there's a lot of people out there that'll tell you they can build or surface your court, and you're paying a lot of money to have it done at kind of mediocre levels a lot of time. And I think there's a real lack of education in this industry on that side of things where they look at it as a line item. If you
Hmm.
follow me online, like I say that all the time, like it's looked at as a line item from a lot of the times the people making decisions on the rackets aren't rackets people. So they look at court builder A and court builder B and whoever's the cheapest, not knowing you know issues or skips that steps that they're going to skip or differentiations in product or build quality or there's so many things that go into it. So when I met the guys at Pickletile, I really saw an opportunity to really try to come over and and help elevate this industry to really kind of spread that education, amongst the industry, especially with my peers in the, on the country club and, racket facility industry and things like that, to where, they are making a little bit more of an informed decision, getting a better quality product overall. And like, that's kind of what I want to continue to do at Pickle Tile. I want to continue to really kind of like elevate that side of the game. And then obviously with Pickle Glass, like, I just want to see it like an epic takeover in the next 3 to 5 years. I want it to become the standard for fencing. I'm tired of seeing chain link. I've never like been impressed with it on the tennis side, and I think it's like an absolute like just trash option to put around a pickleball court. I really do.
All right. And I'm gonna let Brooks answer that, but before he does, you worked at Hartrue, and I think, and I never get his name right, but his last name is in Italian. His first name is Ed Mont. You know
Oh
who I'm talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Ed's one of the best, and that's why, as maybe a mentor to you, he looks at a site and figures out what's the best drainage. He figures out what's the best texture of soil. He's so into that, and he makes the installation so precise, or the thought process behind that, and appointing Hartrue. And I think that makes Hartrue stand out because of him. Brooks, your turn to answer the question about where you're going to be and where the company's going to be.
A couple of things. Yeah, I was very surprised at the zero sum nature of professional sports when running Major League Pickleball, and not happy about it. So it's been refreshing to contribute to an organization or a company, or the growing the sport. And I've played every sport under the sun since before I could walk. And so just, it's been an integral part of my life, my son's life. And so love the ability to contribute to a company that's growing the sport at the infrastructure level. And it's something that's definitely needed. And then it crosses over from pickleball to tennis to paddle or padel. And there's another quote from a gentleman, I can't think of the name right now, is, "I like doing long-term things with long-term people." And that's the kind of stuff that energizes me, which is like meeting cool people. I get to work with somebody like Matt. He's mostly cool. Um, and just doing
That's
like
high praise coming from Brooks.
yeah, doing cool stuff. And so Pickle Tile has definitely been at the forefront of innovating the glass fencing, doing things better from a construction standpoint, like Matt said, as opposed to the old school general contractor ways of, pen and paper. So I think there's some things that we're working on that will surprise people. And I think the leadership and all of us, including Matt and myself, all have an understanding of where this world is headed, where this industry is headed, and want to be out in front of that. So
Well, thanks for being here, guys. I want to say, everyone who's listening, it is a beautiful addition to your pickleball court. It really is stunning. And if you think about all the elite clubs, a lot of them don't have that wire. They have a mesh, or they have something else. So I love getting rid of the chain link. I think guys are doing a great job. It really does. Sound is decimated, but the beauty of it is that you can watch, not hear much, and see and make the courts look beautiful. Thanks for all you guys are doing for the industry, and thanks for being on the podcast.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the
Matt
Thank you.
time.
Brooks, we'll see you soon, maybe the next conference. Take care.
See
All
ya.
right, thank you.
Bye.